Good afternoon. I'm Jordan Roth, and you are watching now episode 20 of the Dallaesthetic podcast. And today, joining me is Justin Archer.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So today we're going to talk about a couple things. Justin is partnering on a publication called FOA, Friend of the Artist, and you're on issue...
We're on issue 8 right now. So
Cool.
we just juried. We're working on interviews right now for volume 8, and it should release early next year.
So how did this come about initially?
Yeah. So I'll do my best to represent Ty's story because he, I think it was really his sort of project that he was inspired and asked me to join him in it. But
This is Ty Bishop?
Ty Bishop,
Okay.
yes. So Ty Bishop, he's a good friend of mine. He's also a painter. He was at an event, and I don't know what the event was, but it was a lot of Dallas gallery owners and professors mostly. And it was at I think the DMA, and it was just an artist talk. They were talking about art and culture in Dallas, and something that was touched on was that, unfortunately, in Dallas, they were just discussing how without an MFA or a lot of experience outside of a BFA, there weren't a ton of opportunities for artists to really get their work out there, especially in like a national level or at like the DMA or showing at these major institutions. And so I think the talk was about how can we bring in artists who don't have these traditional backgrounds? How can we work with them? And so Ty was just really inspired as someone who had just graduated, thinking about how does he navigate the art world? What does that look like? And so he just approached me about this publication, and he was like, I think we could do like an online gallery and we could jury artists and see where this goes. And I think the first volume we did was about 2 years ago, and we did just that. We juried close friends or artists that we were familiar with. We asked if they wanted to be a part of the project, and it was online only.
Okay.
And then from there, it kind of expanded and went from online only to online, but also articles, and then to what we now have is a hardback. So I have volume 6 and 7 with me.
Cool.
So that's 6, and this is 7. And so basically, what we now have been doing is we release a call for artists of any medium. So we've had, digital collage artists, we've had traditional painters, sculptors, installation artists, video artists, and they apply. And then we go through, we jury with guest jurors. So this past volume, I had an opportunity to work with these two gallerists and owners of this organization called, I'm going to butcher it, but it's Dadangle.
Okay.
And they were co-juries with Ty and I, as well as Bethany Irons, who's an artist. And so basically FOA is just trying to create, what we're trying to do is bring in jurors and curators and gallerists.
And not just the DFW area.
Right, all over the U.S. and actually outside of it. So we bring in people. The two people I talked about from Dadangle they're both from England, so they work in the UK, which is super cool. So we just had an incredible opportunity to start jurying, and as we juried, we found that the artists continued to come, and the spectrum or the locations spread from Dallas and then New York and then the West Coast, and then we started getting people in the UK.
Wow.
And so now we have artists from all over. I think in volume 8 we have Germany, a couple artists from the UK, and then several artists from all over the US that are represented.
And how many would you say artists have been in the publication so far? You can ballpark it.
Yeah, so I think around 200.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of artists.
In 2 years, that's great.
In 2 years. Yeah, we try to shoot for 25. That's our ballpark. We never, if number 26 is really excellent and we want to make sure they're included, then we bring them in. or if we're stuck on a few, then we'll add or subtract. But yeah, it's been super cool and just an awesome opportunity to expose these artists to regions they're not present in. We've had some really awesome interviews with artists, getting behind the scenes, and you can see in each publication there are like really in-depth interviews about studio practice and process, and sometimes we are fortunate enough to get like process videos or process photographs, so we can really share like what does the artist look like as they're working in their studio.
And what's your distribution like?
Right now we are basically through the website. So as people order, we're printing and shipping them out. So it's kind of, we have a limited edition. So I think we're producing, I want to say 50 of each one.
Well, it's a really nice book.
But it might be 100. Yeah, and that's something that we, you know, Ty and I talked a lot about when we first released these volumes. Our hope was, you know, art, especially art publications, like they come in magazines and the print quality's fine, but you really, art is a tactile experience.
Yeah.
It's a very like physical.
I mean, I don't want to put this thing down.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about a lot. Was like, man, we're just printing these paper covered volumes, and I feel like they're not. You know, you're not going to leave this on your coffee table and want to pick it up or want to show guests. Like, it almost becomes magazine-like.
Yeah.
And so Volume 6 was the first time we talked about going to hardback, and it's a few dollars more, but like what you're getting is so much more beautiful and tactile. Like, this is something, I mean, I have these out in my house. Like, they're just nice objects, and for me, they enhance, you know, as I look through the work, it's a physical book. Right. And not not a magazine. And so like you can really sit with the work. So like we have large spread prints and just really nice. We try to get really high quality images and just make sure that it feels like you're looking at art. Yeah. As close as you can. Yeah. Without having the original image. Books, yeah. Yeah.
Is it a quarterly or?
Yeah, so it's quarterly. So we do winter, spring, summer, fall. So our winter will release around sometime in January, early February, I believe.
And what's the cover price?
Somewhere, I think we might have shown it as a slide. It's $35 roughly.
That's what I've seen.
Yeah, and then we also have a membership. So if you sign up for the membership, then it's a monthly fee. It's way less, but you get
you get all four.
You get all four every year. So I think it brings down the cost basically to the cost that we pay. We really don't make any money when we do that, and that's okay because the goal is really
to cover the art.
To cover the art, yeah. To make sure that people get to engage with the work, and yeah, it's cool. It's been. I was just talking to Ty yesterday just about the curatorial experience of when you work with guest jurors, and everyone has preferences and aesthetics, and each volume feels so unique to the jurors that are involved, to the people who put their time into looking at the work. Volume 8, we're really excited. There's like a lot of collage work and a lot of digitally influenced work. So there's sculptures that are clearly traditional objects, but they're very influenced from Photoshop techniques and digital imagery. So it's cool. It's been exciting. A really awesome experience.
How would an artist get their work into FOA?
So right now on our website, you can go to friendoftheartist.com, and if you go to, I believe it's apply, which is the last tab at the top, then you can submit an application. We just closed those recently because we're jurying the newest volume, or we just finished, but we should open that up soon. So it's, I would say, for about 6 weeks, it's open, and then it's closed for maybe 8 weeks, opens up again. So
they just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and if you follow us on Instagram, we're constantly both posting about the artists that we're showing, sharing snippets of their imagery to get you kind of informed about what the volume contains, but then also as we do jury, or as we bring in guest jurors, or as we are preparing to open up the application process, we notify you.
And is there a version viewable online?
There is. So we have digital versions. And I believe if you go through our website, you can find those. They're iBooks.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, it's great because then, you know, obviously you can take them and put them on your iPad and work with them.
And you've got like almost unlimited distribution in that case.
Yes,
and a lot
exactly.
of exposure for the artist.
Exactly. And that's really what I feel like we're trying to do, is from, you know, these really beautiful books to digital versions to just Instagram and sharing the posts. We're really just trying to cover as much range as we can for the artists, because that's what we're hoping to do, is create exposure, build excitement. We've had just a lot of people who have been part of FOA just continue as a community to like reach out to us and say, hey, I have a show in San Francisco. And so we'll email out to everyone who's been a part of FOA and say, hey, you know, if you're in the area, this show's going on.
Well, it's great that it's coming out of Texas too.
Yeah.
Because we've got Glass Tire here, which is the first art blog, more or less, in Texas. And then you've got this publication. So it's nice to see like a curatorial eye and some editorial content coming from Texas.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's significant too. So we had, so this is one side of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But now I think you're focusing really heavily on your own work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're a sculptor.
Yes.
And
as often as I can be.
As often as you can be. Yeah. And you're a professor too, right?
Yeah. So I also teach at UNT.
Sculpture?
I teach sculpture. I also sometimes will teach design one.
Okay.
So just the basics of being an artist.
Yeah.
All the way up to sculpture and intermediate digital fabrication courses. Yeah. And
so your work is primarily in wood.
Yes.
Which is really, you don't see that very often.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a unique material. It's something that I think still surprises me. I love woodworking in general. I love the material, but it's really been a challenge and also an opportunity to try to take a material that was relevant in medieval times.
Yeah.
And make it relevant again in contemporary art, and finding ways to do that, and finding ways for the material to really...
And we're looking at like one of the replica series, and this one's glitched. So that's something that you're including into the wood that kind of makes it very contemporary.
Yes.
And futuristic.
Yeah. So, with that series, I was working with sort of everyday objects that I find either just as beautiful objects or have some significant imagery. You know, the umbrella piece, I think an umbrella is a really mundane object, but it's a really beautiful object. And, you know, even as I worked on that replica series, and James Zamora was painting, when he finished the painting of the umbrella, was just like blown away. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, there's something here. So yeah, within that series, I'm just, traditionally in my work, I do use a lot of digital fabrication processes behind the scenes.
Okay.
So those aren't always present in the finished objects, but it's an aesthetic I'm trying to work with and trying to navigate, because I think we all, as one of my favorite professors would say, we're all digital citizens.
Yeah. We
are all constantly engaged with digital media and digital content, and
things happen fast.
Yeah, they do.
You know, in our perception, things kind of do sort of fade in and out.
Yeah, even within our memories, because we're constantly like projected upon with image and image and image and image. And so there's something about that that process that's really enticing to me. For those reasons, but also there's something about this invisible world made visible, this intangible object that sits on a flat screen that is not touchable, and how can I bring it out and make it genuine and be patient with it and work with it. Wood takes a lot of patience.
I bet.
So yeah, with the replica series, that's something I was really trying to do, is how do I maintain that aesthetic in the content of those sort of glitches or the missing segments.
And then here, so this is very glitched. And this brings me to my next point, is that you're one of not too many artists working figuratively at the moment, which is something that I really like.
Yeah.
What drew you? You're working with wood. It's something that like builders would use.
Sure.
It lends itself to kind of that type of kind of aesthetic or feeling. But you've taken it and you make people out of wood. So what's behind that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the shortest version, I think possible, is as a early sculptor in undergraduate, a long time ago, I was interested in not digital fabrication. That was later. Quantum mechanics and string theory and all of these sort of bizarre, incredible metaphysical processes that were really beautiful conceptually, and then turning them into sculptures was also really beautiful. Wow. But what I found is that they lacked a humanity to them. Those concepts are incredible. They tell me that we can't know everything about the universe, but how far can that go within the human experience? And so I guess about 5, almost 6 years ago, I just wanted to really pursue the figure. I felt like there was something human about using the figure, recontextualizing it as sculpture. There's something about being confronted with an object that's figurative. It's your size, it's your scale, but things that happen to it are kind of bizarre. You know, like the holes in the internal figure. And I think wood, again, I love woodworking. A lot of my sculptures previously were wood, but the thing that was significant to me was it's a living material. It's a breathing material. It existed physically as a living entity, and I think that's important because I think what I've lost when I was pursuing those quantum mechanics works was the warmth of something real and tangible and human and living. And, you know, I can cast these in bronze. I could 3D print them in life-size scale, and that would certainly be engaging, but I think it would be cold, at least for what the concepts I'm trying to talk about and think about.
That's really interesting. So wood is a great medium between well, it's a medium, of course, but it's a good happy medium between, you know, the object, you know, stone or metal, and like the actual figure, and because it does have those qualities. It's really interesting that you're illustrating these scientific principles through these figurative works.
Yeah, I think, you know, especially in newer works, it's hard to see the clear line between how my old work and my new work is sort of relevant or related. But it is very much like the idea that our experiences, and I think this is maybe more of a metaphorical relationship where I took the tiny, minute scientific particles of quantum mechanics and how every form is made up of all of these nuances. And it's constantly shifting, right? Yeah. We know that, like, at a subatomic level, things are in constant flux and in motion. And I think that in many ways what led me to use the prism aesthetic, where I'm working with hundreds of blocks, because that statement is still true about our experiences. Mm-hmm. We are definitely affected by our past experiences, by our current experiences. We are very much a product of all of these moments in time that build us and shape us and affect us. And trying to find a human way to explain that and to talk about that is important.
And we have images of a few different views of some of these pieces. Do you want to tell us about some of these?
Yeah. So this piece is actually a really personal piece, so it's great that we start here. This is a self-portrait of me. And when I was working on this piece, I was actually the start of this really overwhelming season of anxiety that I had been going through, that I was honestly until recently still navigating. And so the piece is in many ways this reflection of what anxiety feels like internally and what my response is in it. So you have the bucket on the head, and we can think about that in two ways. I think about it both as trying to hide from the world, because that's where I go when I feel anxious, is I want to retreat into myself and sort of disconnect from everything. And I don't think that's the healthiest response, but that's where I go. And then, so I think the bucket sort of illustrates that point, but then internally you have these trees, this growth, this slow, patient, beautiful growth that happens. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about these two ideas and what it means to find internal peace within those circumstances, to try to breathe, inhale, and sort of process what you're going through and let it be used to sort of maybe refine you or to reclaim it as beauty. So I think that piece in particular is very significant to me and very important to my practice and what it meant to be vulnerable in my own practice. So.
And the next one that we'll see, actually, we'll go to that one after, but tell me about this one.
Yeah, so this was a piece, and this was really when I first started working with other people. So my studio practice, I tried to go from telling universal stories about humanity, so to speak, and I tried to really focus on individuals and their experiences. So this was actually, I took a 3D scan of a roommate of mine. His name was Mario, and he was at the time really struggling. He had just finished getting a biomedical degree, this incredible opportunity, but he didn't know where to go with it. Did he pursue a master's? Did he go to be a doctor? So he's really navigating these tensions of how do I make decisions? Like, how do I take these humongous steps forward? And his father was a doctor, and this is something that was really significant to him, is the way his father's life was lived out, the way he gave his life to serve others through this practice. And so I tried to think about that and contextualize that in relationship to in Christianity, a father and son relationship that's described in the Gospels of God and of Jesus, and that sort of following after for selflessness. And so I chose to put him in what I call a modern-day monk outfit.
Yeah.
So he's wearing a hoodie and the hood's up, and he's kind of in this contemplative, internal space.
Yeah.
And then you have that. Yeah, and then you have the water tower hanging, which just represents this sort of infinite source of life that pumps through the body and goes to what's this abstracted cityscape underneath. And so that, I think for him was one of the motivations behind choosing to be a doctor, is to be life to a community in a very tangible way.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then the next one you've got, I think this is the one with the girl falling. Tell me about this.
Yes. So it's funny because it's a common thought that this is a girl. It's actually my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And you're probably 95% of people are like, she's beautiful. And I'm like, he is beautiful. And it is, he had this crazy long hair. And that's kind of honestly what motivated me to do the falling figure, is to see this crazy hair flying back. But this piece was specifically just thinking about immediate satisfaction or immediate gratification versus sustained gratification or sustained satisfaction. So we have this figure falling, and it's being sort of pulled into this digital glitched sort of congested space. And then on the bottom, we have this forest growing from the torso. So if you look, there's a shoe on I think it's his back left foot. Mm-hmm. And it's this really beautiful, really ridiculous sneaker. It's like high-end commodity. It's a $1,200 sneaker, right? It's beautiful, but it's a little excessive.
Right.
So, so I put gold leaf on the shoe, and then I also put gold leaf in the trees to sort of contrast this like desire I think all of us have, but specifically in this season of his life, just his want for wanting to find short-term material gratification, and to learn to invest his life in sustained growth and sustained beauty and sustained life. Yeah. So I guess I'm creating these very abstract, bizarre poems or metaphors.
And then
within
next
that figure,
we've got the woman with an umbrella. Well, there's the bronze version of this piece.
Yes, so that's actually the 3D printed model that I used for the life-size piece.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I printed that, or I cast that in bronze. So, yeah, and then there's this piece. And this piece is actually a portrait of my wife.
Wow.
And so with this, this is probably the first moment I really tried exploring what did it mean to not take away from the figure, not reduce the figure or make the figure feel more fragile, but to make it feel as if it's growing out. And so I painted these flat blue prisms in the figure to kind of reference this bizarre digital or maybe spiritual experience. And the piece is just really about navigating womanhood. Our culture has a lot to say about what a woman is supposed to be. Every side of the fence has a million perspectives on what a woman is supposed to be or what she's called to. And I think my wife in those moments was, we were talking about what does that mean? And what does that mean for her as an individual? And what does that mean in general for women as individuals?
And you've posed her in this like super classical,
yes,
with the posture and the umbrella. I mean, it looks like it's a Renoir or something.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what I was thinking about as we have these traditions of womanhood, and then we have these contemporary opinions of womanhood. And as a man, I don't feel comfortable sharing my opinions or putting my opinions into a work of art because it's not. Those aren't my experiences.
Yeah.
And so one of the benefits of working with other people is getting their experiences. So, we were talking about that, but just getting her perspective on that was significant. But as we talked, it was weird. She was wearing this blanket, basically. And she was just walking through the house with this blanket over her because it was cold. And it was just this beautiful image. And I was like, I don't know yet why I'm so drawn to this, but I need to scan this moment, like capture this and create a sculpture from it. And as I started thinking about statuary, Greek statuary and the umbrella, I started trying to sort of mesh those ideas, like what a traditional or an idealized woman would have been in culture. In Greek culture, you have these women, they're holding their toga and it's just draping over them. And
so it's like it's
like
very
hybrid.
Effective. Yeah.
Very
effective.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now we move forward to 2019 coming up, and you've got an exhibition opening on January 12th at Row 2 Art.
Yes.
And tell me, give us just a hint of what's it called?
Yes. So the show is called All Is Becoming.
Okay.
The shortest hint I can give, a hip hop artist that I love deeply, his work. He has this in one of his songs. He says, of course now I'm going to forget it. So that's wonderful. He basically is just saying the world is in this process. Mm-hmm. Both our experiences and the universal experiences are in this process of becoming. And certain things become really painful or really jarring or really difficult, but those birth beauty long term. And so I'm thinking about what does it mean, how I can use my studio practice, my process to communicate this idea of hardship, resolution, of feeling in progress.
Adversity brings growth, and
yes,
always,
the last lyric that I can't remember the entirety of it, but he says, all of creation groaning, labor aches and pains, like the crushing of a moon could make Saturn's rings. And it's like, yes, that is so tethered to what it means to be human, is to experience hardship and then to use that adversity, that difficulty, to bring beauty into our lives, into others' lives. Yeah, so those are questions I'm really thinking about. What does that look like, and how can I enter into that conversation to not talk about a specific person's experiences, but what I feel like is a pretty universal experience.
Yeah. Well, I really look forward to that. So that'll be January 12th into February at Row 2 Art, 1501 South Irving. I know that because it's my gallery. Anyway, so thank you for joining today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed talking about the work, and like I said, so looking forward to that show.
Yes,
For anybody watching, if you're in Dallas this weekend, which you are not, but
I'm not.
We're having our annual-ish sort of holiday party and gift grab at Row 2 Art, and many of the people that have appeared on the podcast will be there. So that's Saturday the 22nd from 7 to 10, maybe a little bit later, at Row 2 Art. And I've included a quick compilation of some of the small works that are grabbable that evening. And so we'll end with that. All right.